I thought to myself, if they didn't find them soon enough, I bet the crows or critters would. They'd better hurry, I silently chuckled to myself. We were still several miles from the hills, but I felt us getting close to something. I heard our comms guy on the radio start radioing out. He was probably checking to see if we were in range yet. I imagined that he was in range, but that our portable radios wouldn't be. I could hear him, but I wouldn't be able to hear any receiving until we got closer. Hopefully he was talking to someone with some good range, which took watts. A lot more than our tiny radios had. Maybe another one of our vehicles from the meetup at Hotel Bravo could hear him and answer. He must have got something back because he confirmed identity. That meant we were close to another part of the group, I guessed. My friend to my right told me I didn't need to throw any more food. They can figure it out from here, he said. I gave him the food box back, and he put it behind the seat. We puttered along for maybe another 5 miles, and I could start to hear my radio crackle. There was a lot of radio traffic in the area. All sorts of people were setting up something big. Then we got to a bend in the road. It straightened out, and there were many vehicles I recognized, and some I didn't. I even saw a pickup truck with a crane anchored to the bed. Our lead vehicle pulled over in a spot, and we pulled in behind. Everyone else jumped out, so I jumped out too and put on my backpack. It seemed like we were at some kind of farm-style property. Chapter 11, taking a break for a little bit. Noonish, day 1. It was hard to tell exactly when it was. I checked my phone and it was around noon and I was hungry. I noticed nobody was eating though. I asked my CO if I should take the food or if it was supposed to stay. He said it stays. I shrugged and followed. There was a command tent of sorts. I walked over to it and there were maps and plans. I looked over the plans and took pictures of all of them with my camera phone. Someone saw me doing it and just smirked. They were used to me taking pictures of everything. I had a really bad memory and sometimes people would be with me and want to see a copy of the plans. Then that way people could wipe the whiteboard also and not worry about losing the information when they started new ideas. I could remember systems and processes, but only if they logically connected to something and I could get immersed. I couldn't remember dates, times, or names at all. Headaches had got so bad before the collapse that I felt partially brain damaged half the time, so I took the pictures and nobody minded. Just had to make sure nobody ever got my phone, but it had a good password and it was a rare brand that had no commercially available backdoors. I looked around and saw people in the trees that looked like they were digging holes. Other people were coming from a wood pile and bringing lumber to the people in the trees. I thought of the plans for a second and figured out what was going on. Hey, do I get a tree assignment? I asked. They told me I didn't, but that I was free to roam around and help, but radio was silenced in 30 minutes. Copy that, I responded and saluted, and they grinned at me and waved me off. I got my water bottle out and grabbed a swig of it and put it away, also dug through my pack and got out my Kevlar work gloves that I had got in the recyclery. It was time to get to work. I went and stood in the road and got myself oriented and looked at my phone map that they'd been working on. I nodded to the phone and put it away and put my gloves on. As I walked to the first station that was being worked on, I realized we had driven past some of the sentries already. They had blended in really well. I hadn't seen them at all. I said hello to everyone, then looked across to the bend. Even from behind I couldn't see anyone. They had reinforced behind them as well, I assume with earth and lumber. I asked the group how they were doing. I recognized many of them as my friends. They said they were doing well and happy to get out of the city finally. I agreed with them and asked what I could do to help. They said they were just about done with theirs, since the operation had prioritized the most forward positions first. That meant this was the second layer of positions and almost done. One of them asked if I could look at their position, though, and see if there was anything I could point out. We had only trained on this a few times. Some of the guys from the military, though, had practiced this in basic, but nothing quite like real world. They were under a tree, so I carefully maneuvered myself under the tree, careful not to break or even move a single branch. Even the slightest anomaly could give away my friend's positions and be fatal. I got down on my knees and started crawling. It hurt my knees greatly, and I still didn't have knee pads. They were over halfway complete, digging their fighting position out of the ground, but I didn't climb in. I was trying to align myself with where the map said they were supposed to be angling to cover their sectors. I showed them the map and where they were supposed to be facing, trying to look up without me being in the foxhole really strained my neck and eye muscles. Thankfully, I only had to look for a second to give them an idea. They weren't too far off, just needed to make some minor adjustments. I helped them by giving them each a pair of sticks I found on the ground and told them to mark their leftmost and rightmost areas of their sector with the 2 sticks, based on the plan. As soon as they did that, they needed to camouflage the sticks also so they wouldn't contrast. They both feigned smacked themselves at forgetting to do this and trying to do it by memory. They got really close though, so it wasn't a big deal and an easy fix. I bid them good luck and went to go find the next station. I wouldn't have seen it if not for people moving back and forth. It was maybe about 100 yards away. I walked over to it and said hi to everyone. They were all happy to see me and were working steadily away on their little bunker. One of them was still digging when their floor was probably plenty low enough. I reminded them that they only needed to be able to crouch down in these, since they needed to be rapidly completed. He realized what he was doing and stopped digging to help with building the earth and debris perimeter around their dugout. I helped them hold some wood in place while they packed dirt around it. I reminded them to put local foliage over the earth so it didn't look out of place. They already had their sectors really well defined. Now I would work my way backwards to the people that were only starting. They were a little harder to find. The first was another 100 yards back or so. I went and grabbed some small logs from where everyone else was getting them from and then headed to the position they were trying to fortify. Right then, there was a crackle coming over the radios that some friendlies were coming in. They were the last group we were waiting for. Everyone copied that they wouldn't fire, and a pickup truck and another pickup truck and an RV combo came in. Over the radio, they told us that radio silence from here on out to finish our positions, then wait for further orders. I got to the position that I had seen with some lumber. They were very happy to see me. Their position had only started being worked on, as they were the 3rd set of positions from the road. I helped them mark their sectors and then put the wood down that I had brought. They weren't really facing the road. Their sectors were to face one of the sides perimeters. This would make sure the front 2 teams couldn't get flanked, and so the front teams could safely retreat under the cover of fire. I got my shovel out and helped them outline where they would need to dig. They both had knee pads, and the digging wouldn't be a problem for them. They reviewed their sector identifiers in the ground and their digging outline, and it looked good, so they started digging. I went and got them a lot of wood so that they could reinforce the earth barriers around their defensive position. I looked around for the 6th position, and it was all the way on the other side of the field. I guess they were overwatch for the other flank. They seemed to have more help over there, so I kept helping with this position. These guys were all my friends, and I know they would help me if the roles were reversed. I saw nobody sitting around. Everyone was working hard. I had noticed that the truck and truck RV had pulled past us and went straight to the command tent. There were some women and children and a couple of significantly older gentlemen that looked like they once maintained high ranks in the military. I went back to work helping my friends make this defensive position. We took logs and set the logs in the dirt and sticks into the ground to hold the logs in place and hammered the sticks in thoroughly. Then I used the dirt they were digging out of the hole and put it around the wood. It took a lot of earth to stop a large caliber, but if you had earth and wood together, it worked really well to stop anything short of a 50 cal round. It would be very rare for a grenade to land directly on top of you. That's why there were barriers on the sides of the dugout. Normally there would be a smaller hole dug in the bottom of the floor of these miniature trenches for a grenade to go, but there probably wouldn't be time. I think the likelihood of getting grenades tossed at my friends would be low anyway.